Hey y'all, back out here mushroom hunting again, and if you watch me a lot, you'll know that I do a lot of mushroom hunting. I show it a lot here on the YouTube channel, and what's pretty cool about it is I started doing YouTube around the same time that I got started on this whole mushroom thing, hunting the wild ones and growing them on logs, like inoculating logs and doing it that way. And looking back at some of my old videos, I can kind of figure out how long I've been at it, and it seems to be around 3 years now, which isn't a terrible long time, and I'm certainly no expert at this point, but 3 years has given me a lot more experience, and I feel like I have some insight to the mushroom hunting and growing, and so I feel like I have enough experience now to give some actual advice on the situation, and I thought I'd do that today. So I guess first off, I'll talk about the wild ones, since I'm going back to get a wild mushroom. I got a little lion's mane, and then I have some comb tooth, which both of those are in the Hericium genus, and they're kind of similar. And I guess those are a good example of what my strategy has been on the wild mushrooms as somebody that didn't know anything really. I think I'm up to about 5 species that I find pretty regularly, as the season progresses. And if you watch along, you'll notice that pretty much everything that I hunt is just really weird, distinct looking mushrooms, which I like that. I like weird and unique things, and all mushrooms, I guess, are beautiful, but I've intentionally picked these mushrooms to hunt for because they're so unique looking that it's sort of hard to mistake them for other mushrooms. And you still got to do your homework, buy a guide. I watched tons of YouTube videos after I bought my guide, but with that homework, I feel really comfortable with the mushrooms that I hunt, because they really don't have many poison lookalikes. Some of them don't have any lookalikes, and I think these lion's manes and comb tooth are a good example of that. And that gives you a little bit of a safety net to where you're not going to get something that's going to make you really sick or even kill you. We don't want that. Here's where the lion's mane is. This log I've actually showed for almost a whole 3 years, I think, that I've started this mushroom thing, but it's sort of playing out. That's not much of a lion's mane, but this log, I found them on sometimes 2 or 3 times a year, the lion's manes, and I've got a really good video on the comb tooth on that part. And that is sort of another thing that most of the mushrooms I hunt have in common, is most of them are saprophytic, meaning that they feed off of something dead. In my case, it's always a dead log. The only thing that I hunt that's not saprophytic is probably the chanterelles, and they grow on the ground. They're a mycorrhizal species. They still fit the other bill that they're really distinct. There are some things you could mistake for a chanterelle, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty obvious. And probably wouldn't even be messing with these little ones today, except for I did find some shiitakes, but I want to give those to my landlord they're going to cook their Thanksgiving dinner, and I still want a few. So with this little stuff, I'll have enough to cook an omelet, and I'll kind of get my fix. So if you watched the last video, you might recognize this log. I found some of these comb tooth here when I made my squash soup, and they're still growing under here, some new ones, and some of the other ones aren't so bad. These things have a tendency to do this where they're like right on the ground, and the way they grow, they just collect trash and stuff all up in them. But there's a lot of it, so surely I can find enough to get enough clean ones to get an omelet. And so that's sort of another strategy of mine that was unintentional at the start, but just happened to work out because most of the stuff that I hunt is saprophytic and it grows on rotten logs. Pretty much if I find a rotten log in an area that I know really well, once I found that log, I just sort of come back and return to the same places over and over. Where, you know, when I first started, I had to go out and find all this stuff for the first time, and it's pretty time consuming. It's a lot of fun, and I still do that. I still like to go to new places and hunt, but like right now, I don't really want to drive all the way out to one of my other spots. I don't have a lot of time, and I more wanted the mushrooms than I wanted to get out and mushroom hunt. And because these are on the same logs, it's not unusual for me just to pop by here and find at least something on one of these logs where I've found lion's mange, chicken of the woods, comb tooth, things like that. So this made it really easy and a really convenient food source for me. And, you know, I really like eating these things. Sometimes you find stuff you've never seen. I don't know what that is, but I'm pretty sure it's some kind of doo-doo. And I found it on that clump right there. I'm not going to eat these. I don't want to eat mushrooms with doo-doo on them, but it's really interesting that something's been up in there eating the wood and, yeah, crapping on the mushrooms. But mushroom hunting really does put you out in nature, and you'll see stuff that you never noticed before. That's enough about the wild mushrooms for a minute. I did get enough for an omelet, and now I'm going to walk over to the shiitake logs, which these are logs that I inoculated myself, so I'm culturing the mushrooms, and I want to sort of give you some of my ideas on that as well. And yeah, but I did get enough for the omelet. Check this out. Yeah, got plenty in there for that to make a really big omelet. That may be what I eat tonight for dinner. So, mushroom logs as opposed to hunting the wild mushrooms. As far as wild mushrooms go, if you have the knowledge to identify the mushrooms without getting poisoned or killed, really all you need at that point is a knife and a bag and a place that you have permission to hunt them. Mushroom logs are a little bit more in depth than that. I have about $100 of equipment in this. You could get by cheaper than that, but I have about $100 worth of stuff. There was a learning curve to this, which to me is a one-time learning curve. After you kind of know some of the basic rules, that's it. But you also have to have the logs. You have to cut some live trees from somewhere. Hopefully somebody will give them to you, or you have them. But that's sort of where I'm going with this and the species that I have chosen to use. I use shiitake, which is what I want to talk about now, but I also use oysters a lot. And sweet gum works for both of those. And here in the South and a lot of the U.S., sweet gums are a trash tree, and if most people would probably give them to you to get them off of their property. And they work really good for this. And the other cost to doing this is you have to buy the mushroom spawn, whether you buy the sawdust or the pegs, which is a little bit pricey, so that's another thing to consider. Now that I've grown these for a few years, I do have a preference in which kind that I grow. Not necessarily the strain, but shiitakes are my #1 choice now, and there's a reason for that. One, I can grow them on these sweet gum logs, which are easy to come by here, and these have been fruiting. This is the third, I think it's the third or fourth flush that I've got off these logs this year, and this is the second year that I've got them. I got these, I think, 6 months after inoculating the logs, which is really fast. So it's a really fast turnaround. And the quality of the mushroom itself, to me, these are the best all-around mushroom. I'm not going to say it's my favorite mushroom of all times, but it's a really good mushroom. It's really firm. It holds up when you're cooking it. I think if you was vegan, this would probably be kind of a good meat substitute. I'm not vegan, so I really can't comment on that, but I just did. And a lot of people know it, like they're not freaked out about it. And that brings me to my #2 choice, which would be oyster mushrooms. And the reason they're #2, for the main reason that I call them #2, is because they are a little weird, and a lot of people don't know them, and they're a little bit weirded out by them. So if you're cooking these and sharing them with people, that might be a thing. and 2 is the quality of those are not as good. I feel like you have more time to harvest these before they go past their prime, and with the oyster mushrooms, they'll get really big really quick, and they'll lose their quality pretty quick, and they'll get buggy faster. But they can also be grown on the sweet gum logs. So shiitakes are my number 1 choice. Oysters are my number 2. I do have a lot of my viewers that are in places farther north where they don't have sweet gums and a lot of deciduous trees, but most people, even in far North America anyway, up into Canada, probably have access to aspen trees, and I think you can grow the oysters on that. So if I was up there, oysters may be my number 1 choice. But down here in the south and a lot of the U.S., I think the shiitakes are the way to go. That being said, I will probably always grow a little bit of both. I wished I had done some more oyster logs when I did these, just to have the variety and to spread them out, you know, have a longer season on them. Not a bad little haul at all. I usually get more than this, but this is still plenty, I think, for my landlord to work her magic for her Thanksgiving meal, and she always does really good with it too. Alrighty, whether you're hunting the wild mushrooms or cultivating your own, I think it's worthwhile. It's really rewarding, and I suggest you get out and do it, but be safe about it. But anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. Y'all be good. Bye.